I'm Megan. I'm the marketing manager here at IGI. IGI is an enterprise-level VMware solutions provider. We work very closely with them and have for more than 10 years and done more than 800 engagements. And I'm going to actually pass it off to Jim Kegelmeyer, who's our virtualization director, to do a quick overview, and then he'll pass it over to Alan, who's going to do the full presentation. And like I said before, if you guys have questions, you can unmute yourself or you can just type it into the chat box below.
Terrific. Thanks, Megan. My name is Jim Kegelmeyer. Good afternoon. And I'm the director of our VMware practice here at IGI. And I'm joined today by Alan Stocker, who's a senior engineer specializing in VMware solutions. Today, we're going to present to you the key features and benefits of vSphere 6.5, and also things to consider and how to prepare for upgrading to 6.5. IGI is a company that offers VMware services, and at the end of this presentation we have a special offer to those of you who have attended today's webcast, and we'll also be sending you an ebook from IGI and VMware titled 8 Tips for a Successful Upgrade to vSphere 6.5. So thanks everybody for joining us today. Alan, take it away.
Thanks, Jim. That was a great intro. I don't know if I can follow this whole presentation up with that tenacity. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. As Jim mentioned, we're going to be talking about upgrading to vSphere 6.5, some of the great new features of 6.5, as well as the upgrade paths, processes, everything that's involved in upgrading your environment to 6.5. If you did notice at the bottom here on this cover slide, I do have a poll everywhere set up. So I'm going to try to make this a little more interactive than just scrolling through slides. So throughout the presentation, there's 3 or 4 questions that we'll be able to see in real time as people answer. So right now, if you want to take a quick minute and on your other monitor on your phone, just head over to pollev.com/AlanStalker117. And you'll see the first question pop up, and as we go along, it'll change out as we click through the slides. So with that being said, let's get started. And again, thanks for joining us today. So to start out, we're just going to cover some of the new features of 6.5, vSphere 6.5. That encompasses ESXi and your vCenter server, as well as some other pieces like VMware Update Manager. So the big thing with 6.5, I'm sure many of you that have a 5.5 or 6 environment have seen the HTML5 vSphere Fling. So with 6.5, the HTML5 client is actually built into the vCenter server appliance, which is wonderful. Other than that, it doesn't have all of the same features as the Flash version. Typically in the past, you'd have to deploy your Windows-based vCenter or your vCenter server appliance, and then you'd have to install the Fling to use the HTML5 client. With 6.5, it is included, and it works pretty nicely. I'm going to break away here from the presentation partway through and give you a demo from my home lab of the HTML5 client, as well as some of the other the embedded HTML5 client for the ESXi host and things like that. Another great feature of 6.5 is the native high availability that's exclusively for the vCenter server appliance. So those of you that are running the Windows-based vCenter right now, you're not going to be able to take advantage of the native high availability with 6.5. But this is a great time if you're thinking about upgrading to 6.5 to migrate away from that Windows-based vCenter and migrate over to the vCenter server appliance. So this solution allows for active, passive, and witness nodes, which are cloned from your existing vCenter server. And then your HA cluster can be enabled, disabled, or destroyed at any time. And then a maintenance mode as well, so you could put your appliances in maintenance mode as you need to do upgrades and fail over to those virtual appliances that are running your vCenter server environment. So it makes it a lot handier if you have a disaster recovery scenario or data protection scenario where one of your vCenter server appliances fails, or a data store that it's on has some sort of disk corruption, it'll automatically fail over to another vCenter server, and you'll be having almost no downtime. Another new feature in vCenter 6.5 is the native backup and restore for the vCenter server appliance. This allows you as customers to back up your vCenter server and platform services controller directly from the VAMI or APIs. So you can see down at the bottom there, we have RESTful APIs. So the new REST APIs allow for so many different things, including the native file-based backup and restore of vCenter and the platform services controller. And it allows you to choose a slew of different methods, whether it be SCP, HTTPS, or FTP, FTPS protocols to back up these appliances. Excuse me. Another great feature that I'm actually going to show you in a demo in my lab is the VMware Update Manager, which is integrated directly into the vCenter server appliance in 6.5. So out of the box, you have Update Manager. You don't need a separate Windows server to run Update Manager. It's all integrated and really tightly tied together, and just, you know, you don't have to manage another server for your Update Manager, which is absolutely phenomenal. And again, I'll show you a little demo of that as we move forward. A few other things, we're not going to touch on all of these, but a few other things that I want to mention are the predictive DRS features in 6.5 that leverage the predictive analytics of vRealize Operations Manager. So if you have VROPS running in your environment, predictive DRS uses a really cool algorithm to enable workload balancing before utilization spikes occur. So VROPS will keep track over time of, say, your SQL server that gets hammered on at Friday at 5 o'clock when developers are committing code to your SQL database or something like that. And it can predict and move workloads around based on when it's going to think it will see resource spikes, which is a pretty amazing feat. Another really cool feature is encryption in 6.5, so you can encrypt your VMs with storage policies now to your data stores, whether it be vSAN, iSCSI storage, so you can encrypt all of your VMs at the VM level based on your different storage policies. And then one last thing I'd like to touch on is the logging, the actionable logging in 6.5. So not only virtual machine changes, but all vSphere changes are logged now. So changes to roles and permissions, data store browsing, downloading a VM, modifying vCenter, things like that, those are all logged actionably, which is great for audit trails and things of that nature for those of you that have requirements like that. So those are just a slew of new features that are part of 6.5. Also at the end, I'm going to send you guys a link, everyone that's joined, to a new hands-on lab that VMware has that's called 6.5 New Features, and it actually walks you through a good majority of these, how they all work, and actually how to implement them once you have 6.5 deployed. So let's talk about some important documents. So prior to starting any upgrade, you want to do your homework, right? You want to make sure that you read the release notes.
The thing is, we were told about this back in October.
I think somebody's not muted right now. Chris,
sorry about
Chris
that.
Stett?
Yep, I'm sorry
That's
about
okay.
that.
No, that's okay. Prior to any upgrade, you want to do your homework. Like I said, read the release notes, KB articles, the 6.5 documentation, everything from the upgrade guide to the admin guide, and of course the compatibility guide. Those are all 4 great tools to see what you have running in your environment now, and then see if that path is going to work from what you're running now in your environment to 6.5. If you're running 5.0, 5.5, most of the time it's not a straight shot upgrade to 6.5. There's a path that you have to follow along the way to get from where you are to 6.5. So those are some important documents to take a look at if you're going to do this process by yourself. And it can get a little dicey. it can get a little hairy. We've had some customers in the past try to do it themselves, and then they're like, hey, we're going to definitely need some help here because we don't even know where to start. So definitely take a look at these. These are all on the VMware website, and it'll be included in the ebook that we send out after. So here's some upgrade planning considerations. Obviously, this is not an entire list. This is just some ideas of things that you're going to want to look at to be successful in your plan of attack here. So you're going to want to validate your current vSphere topology to see if it's currently supported in 6.5. One thing to note here is if you need to consolidate your SSO domain, that can only be done in 5.5. Once you upgrade to 6.5, your first node, you cannot consolidate your SSO domain anymore. So you want to do that first before you think about that upgrade and migration to 6.5. You want to validate, obviously, that all of your third-party solutions that you're using in your VMware environment, say you're using agentless antivirus, something like Trend Micro or Bitdefender, you're going to want to make sure those are compatible with 6.5. Or the versions that you're running in your environment are 6.5, and make sure you don't have to upgrade those before you migrate to 6.5. You're going to also want to make sure that your current hardware platform is supported on the hardware compatibility list. Like I said, if you're running 5.5, chances are your hardware is compatible with 6.5, but you definitely want to make sure before you even start upgrading your hosts or vCenter server appliance or migrating to a vCenter server appliance, that your hardware is going to work with 6.5. You know, that's a huge problem if you start the upgrade and you're like, oh no, what do I do now? My hosts are compatible. Well, you can either rebuild your entire environment from scratch or go buy new hardware, but you definitely want to make sure that your hardware is on the hardware compatibility list. So your vCenter server, it supports image level backups. So you want to make sure that you can back up your vCenter server before you either upgrade your Windows-based vCenter or your vCenter server appliance, migrate to vCenter server appliance. You're obviously going to want to have a solid backup of your vCenter server. I actually just helped a customer upgrade from 5.0 to 6.5, and we had a little problem with their SSO domain along the way, and luckily I made sure we had good backups before we migrated over, because one of the upgrade components failed and we actually had to roll back to a backup. But once we worked out a couple of those kinks, everything went very, very smoothly. So always make sure you have a good backup. Do a health check. So as part of this webinar today, we're actually offering a free health check of your vSphere environment with a purchase of a service to upgrade your environment. We'll talk about that towards the end. But that's a huge thing. We can actually take a look at your environment as a whole, generate a really nice report. It's anywhere between 50 and 100 pages of what's in your environment, compares it against best practices, security issues, all things of that nature, just related to your VMware vSphere environment. So this isn't actually something that we recommend, what we do, but it's actually in VMware's best practices to do a health check prior to your upgrade. You don't want to be fixing things after you upgrade. You might as well fix issues that the health check finds first, and then the upgrade process will be a lot smoother. So I'm sure many of you still have the Windows vCenter server appliance, which is fine. But if you're going to migrate to 6.5, I would absolutely recommend getting away from the Windows-based vCenter and just go to the appliance. It is so much easier to manage. It's just an OVS template that you deploy, and the migration process is very seamless. Connect to your old vCenter server, put in a bunch of credentials and things of that nature, checks your environment again to make sure that everything will be compatible with what you have running VMware-wise, and it will automatically migrate all of your data over to the vCenter server appliance. You didn't hear this from me, but the Windows vCenter is going to go away at some point. I don't know when that is, but it will be going away. So this is a great opportunity to migrate to the VCSA if you haven't done so already. Let's see. You want to obviously map out the upgrades, which we're going to actually talk about here, kind of the process of what order you have to do things in. But you want to have a plan, right, of what you're going to do on what days. And depending on the size of your environment, it's really going to change how you do things. So if you have a larger environment, you're not going to be able to upgrade all of your ESXi hosts in a day, right? So you want to have a plan of attack here. Get familiar with the vSphere 6.5 features. I mentioned using the hands-on lab. So I will send that out in the follow-up email. The hands-on lab is wonderful. It actually pulls you into a lab environment hosted by VMware and walks you through all the new features of 6.5, as well as the management interfaces, as you can see. So as I mentioned, with this promotion we're running here for the webinar, you can get a free health check with a 6.5 upgrade through us. So as I mentioned, it's going to just identify things in your environment that may have issues as far as your VMware infrastructure goes. It's going to tell you what's wrong, why it's wrong, and how to fix it. And it's, like I said, a really comprehensive report that we put together for you. It's great. I don't want to harp on this too much, but we're limiting this to 1 vCenter and up to 6 hosts. So here's one of the interoperability matrices for 6.5. If you are running 5.1 or 5.0, they are end of life. So those are no longer supported by VMware. So this is a great time to start thinking about, hey, we need to get going and upgrade to 6.5. This is available on VMware's website, not only for the vCenter server, but also you can compare the hardware that you're running in your environment against this, so you can make sure that everything is gonna work well. It's actually KB, I think 200-6028. We'll put that in the email as well. Oh, it's actually right there on the screen. So here's one of our first little polls. Looks like someone answered already. So I'm just gonna pause here for a minute, and if you haven't checked this out yet, head over to pollev.com/AlanStalker117, and you can answer this question for me. Or if you don't want to pull up your web browser, you can text that to 37607, and we'll see if anyone wants to respond here. This is just kind of cool to see what everyone's running in their environment. We're split across the board. I'll just give it another minute. If you haven't, again, if you haven't done this before, it's a really cool platform. Just go to that link at the top. And I think Megan just sent it out in the chat. You can just click there, easy link. So no one on 6.5 yet. Cool, I guess that's why you're here. All right, I'm going to move on to the next slide, but the question should stay up if you want to, go ahead and answer still. That'll stay there until we roll into the next question. So let's talk a little bit about the process. Maybe. There we go. So let's step through the process of what's going to happen when we do an upgrade of your vSphere environment. So there's two different models, right? There's a external model, right, where you have a separate vCenter server and a separate platform services controller, or you have an embedded deployment. Then the SSO, platform services controller, and vCenter are running in the same VM. So that's going to, again, depend on the size of your environment. If you're having enhanced linked mode with vCenter. You're going to want a external platform services controller, obviously. But if your environment's small, which I think a lot of our attendees have, it's more than likely going to be an embedded deployment. So the first thing, obviously, your SSO or platform services controller. So a lot of you that are running 5.5 and earlier, it's called an SSO domain. That's where your single sign-on, everything like that is managed. It's rebranded in 6 as the platform services controller. Next, you're going to upgrade your vCenters. All of your vCenters in that vSphere domain, that platform services controller or SSO domain. And then this is the time where we're going to migrate to vCenter Server Appliance if you're not running the vCenter Server Appliance. Next step, we will upgrade your ESXi hosts. Step 4, the VMs that are running on top of those ESXi hosts, the VMware tools, and the hardware compatibility, we're going to upgrade those. And then last but not least, we're going to upgrade the VMFS data stores that you have in your environment to the latest version that's compatible with 6.5. So there's just some enhancements for performance with the new version of VMFS. So the vCenter Server Appliance can be upgraded or migrated in one of 2 ways. It can be upgraded via the CLI, or we can do it directly through the ISO. So you can see here, there's the install, upgrade, migrate, restore. If you're already running the vCenter Server Appliance, that's great. You just mount the ISO to your local machine, hit upgrade, and then it'll walk you through the process of upgrading your appliance. Migration, again, is a little more complicated depending on the size of your environment and where you're coming from, VMware-wise. And then I mentioned earlier, the VMware Update Manager. Windows, got to have an additional VM for Update Manager, maybe multiple depending on the size of your environment. You need a separate database to store all of the Update Manager data. You have to size it appropriately for your environment, and there's no backup failover. If Update Manager goes down, you gotta reboot servers. You gotta, depending on, again, how large it is, your environment is. There's a lot of other things to consider. So with the vCenter Server Appliance, Update Manager, again, is built in. It's integrated, enabled by default, so you don't have to install any other components. It's just there. The database for vCenter Server, the Update Manager is built right into an embedded database running on the vCenter Server Appliance. It scales very nicely if you need multiple vCenters, and the vCenter Server Appliance backups that we talked about natively in 6.5, it backs up the Update Manager as well, which is wonderful. And then, again, the third step is upgrading the hypervisor, your ESXi hosts. Obviously, there's great support for the latest hardware. If you're thinking of refreshing hardware in your data center, it supports all the latest Dell, HP, Cisco, all that fun stuff. Some huge improvements in vSAN if you're using any vSAN in your environment. And a lot of enhancements for vMotion. Very, very quick. We can do vMotion now. And if you're running vSAN in your environment, vMotions are almost instantaneous now. It's pretty incredible. And obviously, scale. We're condensing compute resources, right, on less and less servers, so we can scale these servers much larger. So here's a picture of what things kind of look like as far as management interfaces go for the version of 6.5. So the most used is obviously the vCenter web client. It's continued for whatever reason to be based on the Adobe Flex platform, which is, I hope that's going away at some point in my in my own world, because we all know that Flash isn't fun to maintain. But this will be retired, the vSphere web client, at some point, and we'll roll into the HTML5 based client. It's seen a lot of development since it was once a VMware Fling, and customer feedback has been huge for VMware in this area, and they've rolled all of the customer feedback from that Fling into the HTML5 client that's bundled with 6.5. Again, there's no feature parity like exactly between the vSphere web client based in Flash and the HTML5 client, but that's coming. So that's huge. The appliance management, which I'm going to show you here after this slide, is so much easier to manage than the Windows-based vCenter. It's all based in HTML5, and it allows you to make any changes you would need to make to your vCenter server via the appliance interface. Everything from network changes to NTP servers to upgrades. When I say upgrades, upgrades are one click now. You literally click the button once, it'll say reboot is required. You reboot your vCenter server. There's nothing else you need to do. It's incredible. And then the host client, which is really cool. So everyone, if you've used VMware for a long time, you're used to the vSphere client, the thick client that you have to install on your machine. The new version of 6.5, all of your ESXi hosts have what's called the embedded host client. So you just punch in the IP address of your ESXi host, and you have a HTML5 version of the vSphere client to access that host. So you can do all of your initial configuration through your web browser instead of installing additional software. Let's just do this poll quick, and then I'll show you some of those interfaces. Links at the top. I think, again, Megan sent it in there in the chat box, so you can just click the little button there. Give it one more minute. All right, so I'm going to bring this over here. Everyone should be able to see that now. So this is the back-end management interface of the vCenter server appliance 6.5. This is your main screen here. Just a health check, talks about your single sign-on domain, backup, support bundle, reboot, everything like that is part of this. But what's cool is, like I mentioned, the update process is incredibly easy now. So I'm just going to, this is in my lab at home. I'm just going to click check repository real quick, and in 30 seconds or less, hopefully, quickly. As you can see, I have an update for 6.5, a new build. All I would do is click install updates. They'll automatically pull the latest version down from VMware. It will install it, and it will tell me when a reboot's ready. I'll just click a button, vCenter, the appliance will reboot. We're hitting the ground running, that's it. And if you have all of your vCenters linked, same thing. And then again, all of your normal configuration for networking, SSH access, syslog configuration, all of that is managed from this back-end interface. Let me just log into this quick. So this is the embedded host client that I was talking about. So this is by default what you see instead of using the wonderful old, I'm sure many of you have seen that before, the vSphere client. Instead of using this, you're going to just use this to manage and configure your host from from a web page. Again, no more software to install. It's all managed right from here. Everything, all of your configuration for networking, anything like that that you want to change before vCenter is up and running, managed from here. And then the web client, this is the HTML5 based version. Let me just get into the, excuse me, that was the Flash version. Log into the HTML5 version pretty quick for you here. Maybe. Oops, there we go. So it's a lot slicker looking. It's a lot cleaner. It's a lot nicer to navigate than the Flash version. Just a lot snappier, which is pretty cool. I like this interface a lot. Again, you can't do everything from here. You can't, do vSAN configurations and things like that. All of those features that are in the Flash client are going to roll into the HTML5 client at some point. I don't know exactly when, but it should just be an update to your vCenter server, and they're, again, adding new features all the time. And then one last thing I want to show you here before we go back to the presentation quickly is the vSphere 6.5 hands-on lab. It's rated extremely well. I've gone through it a couple times. It takes about an hour and a half, but it covers all of those new features that I mentioned when we kick this webinar off. When we send out the ebook, I will make sure that this link is included to get to this hands-on lab, or at least the hands-on lab link with the name of this hands-on lab. And you guys can go give it a try and try out some of those new features. All right. And I think we just have a few more slides here. Nothing crazy. All right. So if you're using the vSphere web client now, typically you had to install the client integration plugin to access any of the features like deploying OVF templates, logging in single sign-on with your Windows credentials, adding things to your content library, things like that. You had to install the client integration plugin, make sure it was in your browser, everything like that. That's deprecated now. So 6.5 has all of these features built in right through your web browser. You don't need any other installations to access anything within the vSphere client. The only thing you might want to install is the remote console, which is really nice to access the console of each of your VMs. You can use the client right in your web browser. That's fine. You can browse the console there, and it works great in your web browser. But the responsiveness of the other one is much better, and I can actually show you that quickly. We click on a VM over here. So you can access it right through, this is just my domain controller at home. You can access it right through your web browser, or you can launch the remote console. And it says I don't have it installed, but oh yeah, it does. There we go. So the remote console is just that remote console. It's a little more robust. You get a full screen. It's a little more responsive than doing it through your web browser. So that is really the only thing that you would need to install, but no more client integration plugin, which is really nice. There you go. That's pretty much everything I just outlined. And then again, the HTML5 client that I just showed you, it's clean, it's modern, it's quick, it's easy to use. It's integrated right into 6.5, right into the appliance. And it's nice. I use it all the time, just not for certain things. Here's a great thing that I want to touch on about the Flash-based version. One of the biggest gripes that I had was that the web client with Flash wouldn't automatically refresh. So you'd always have to be up here clicking to make sure you're seeing the latest and greatest information. With 6.5, live refresh. So everything that you do in your vSphere web client automatically refreshes. Any changes you make is automatically refreshed in your inventory list. A lot of the times you'd have to click that refresh button to make sure you're looking at the latest data. So it's huge. That's good. vSphere Web Client can now act as the source of truth. It's not a lie. And then here's the top 10 reasons we pulled out to upgrade to vSphere 6.5. So I'm not going to read these to you verbatim because that's really boring, but there's just a lot of great new features, a lot of performance enhancements, not only to the vSphere Web Client, the HTML5 client, but your ability to back up and replicate your vCenter appliance. To have an active vCenter for a lot of customers is huge, just peace of mind. When I used to run a very large VMware infrastructure, that would keep me up at night. If vCenter goes down, nothing works right. But with an active setup like you can do in 6.5, it can sleep really well at night. And then, the HTML5 client, start using that if you have 6.5 in your environment now. If not, let's get you to 6.5 and start using that, because again, the Flash client will go away at some point. And it's just a huge improvement over that Flash client. And then again, I think Jim mentioned this at the beginning, and Megan, our marketing person, $1,000 off your 6.5 upgrade. We're limiting this right now to customers with 1 vCenter and up to 6 hosts. If you have more than that, we're more than happy to help and work something out with you. And with that special, we're going to give a free health check, pre-upgrade health check. And I'm even willing to do a post-upgrade health check to show you where you were and where you are now and see how much better off you are with 6.5. So you can send an email to virtualization@igius.com, or Megan, I believe, is going to send my contact information out to everyone with our ebook. So feel free to take us up on this offer. We'd love to help you out and get you from where you are to where you should be, and help you kind of plan that whole process, because it can be quite daunting. And I'm going to open it up for questions right now. I know we're running a little bit low on time. If everyone would do me a favor, you should have one more question popping up on your screen here. If you want to just tap how you feel about how we did with the webinar, you can tap the really happy face or the not so happy face or the mad face. And it's all anonymous, so don't feel bad. You can be critical of me. But yeah, if you'd like to answer some questions, ask some questions right now, you can paste them in the chat box, and be more than happy to answer. I'm trying to find the chat to see if there's any questions in it. So Doug asks, we're currently running 5.5 update 3. Can we upgrade directly to 6.5, or do we have to upgrade to 6 first? That's a good question that I don't know off the top of my head, but I can definitely get back to you on it. I would have to go look at the interop matrix and see where you are and make sure that path direct to 6.5 is kosher. I'm thinking yes, seeing that it's 5.5U3, but don't quote me on that. But I will get you an answer for sure, Doug. Any other questions? You can either unmute yourself or send it in the chat box.
*6 to unmute.
*6 to unmute. Well, if nobody has any questions,
there again, please. One other question. Upgrading. You see that in the bottom? Upgrading VCS, whatever that said. Upgrading VCS uses UVMs.
Are you asking if you are upgrading your vCenter server appliance, can you use Update Manager? I think if that's what you're asking, then yes. You can use Update Manager to update your vCenter server appliance, or you can do it through the backend management interface, like I showed you a little while ago. But if you're migrating to the vCenter server appliance, you cannot use VMware Update Manager. You have to, you know, actually do that migration process. Anything else? Well, if you had a burning question you didn't want to post publicly, Megan, again, is going to send out a great ebook about being successful in upgrading to 6.5. I'll make sure that she includes my contact information as well as that hands-on lab information, and you can feel free to reach out to me with any questions. We're here to help. We've helped a lot of customers upgrade from older environments to 6.5, and all of them are much happier. Is vCenter server appliance mandatory? No, the Windows-based vCenter is still supported. I'm interested in to hear why you would want to keep another Windows server on your network. The appliance is a hardened Linux appliance, and it's a lot easier to manage and upgrade and patch than the Windows-based version. But no, it is not mandatory. If you want to keep your Windows-based version, you can go ahead and do that and upgrade to 6.5. But just know that that's going to be unsupported in the future. We use 5.5 now and would love to move it to the vCenter server appliance, but we don't want it to hurt. Well, that's what we're good at. We try to make it as painless as possible. 5.5 to the migration is painless. You know, we can help you with that. It's great. Is the client-based version? No. So that's a good question, Chris. Once you migrate to 5.5, you can no longer use this guy. This no longer works in 6.5. It's only web-based, which seems scary. I know, big sad face. Everyone says that, but once you start using the web client, it's actually very intuitive and works really well. I honestly hated when this client disappeared, but now that I use the web client every day, I don't think that I could ever go back to this. And you might say if you're using an older version of it, from 6 or 5.5, how awful it is, but the 6.5 version is pretty flawless. It works really well, even though it's flash-based. Any changes related to the EMC vPlex? Regarding this 6.5 upgrade, no. I mean, there's nothing underlying that will hurt if that's what you're asking. As long as your SAN environment is working well, there should be no issues upgrading to 6.5. Anything else? Anyone else? Well, again, I just want to thank everyone for.
I just wanted to say, you know, feel free to reach out to Alan with any further questions, and if you'd just like to bounce some questions off of us, we'd be happy to walk you through the preparation for upgrade or any type of VMware services. We can do part or all of. We can assist you in doing your upgrade if that's how you'd like us to help. Just let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said again, I'll make sure Megan includes my contact info in the follow-up email. Please do me a favor and make sure you hit one of these phases to let us know how we did and help us improve for future webinars. But we're here to help again, and we've had a lot of successful upgrades with a variety of customers. Not only do we do you know, we'll come on site and help you with it, but we've done a lot of remote customers, and everyone so far has been extremely successful and is much happier than the older versions of ESXi, vCenter, vSphere that they were running. So again, like Jim said, reach out, send me an email, give me a call, and we're here to help you be successful with your VMware investment. So thanks again, appreciate it.